The Trump administration is pushing hard to have a COVID-19 vaccine by the end of the year. But what are the risks of moving too fast? Neurologist and best-selling author Dr. David Perlmutter is here to talk about vaccination research and where this virus came from. Welcome back, Dr. Perlmutter.
Thanks. Glad to be back.
Well, the president is saying we may have a vaccine by the end of the year. Is this advisable? Are we rushing to get a vaccine?
Well, we are definitely rushing to get a vaccine, and I don't think that's necessarily the problem. We want to expedite this, that's for sure. But we do have to make sure that what is ultimately produced and purveyed upon the public is both effective and safe. We, think back in previous times when we had swine flu, and there was a vaccine created for that, and it was widely distributed. And there was not an insignificant number of people who had some serious side effects like Guillain-Barré syndrome, which is a neurological issue. So we have to make sure it's safe, and we have to make sure that it's useful. And I think that safety is first. So everybody wants a vaccine tomorrow, that's for sure. To end this whole situation, that's not in the cards. Is it going to happen in 6 months? That is a stretch. I think, we've been hearing a year to 18 months, and I think reasonably that's what we can expect. But having said that, we were very buoyed by the new report out of Oxford, England last week, where a new technology is being utilized to work on a previous platform, a previous vaccine, utilizing a different RNA virus, modifying it in such a way that it can then be responsive or reactive against COVID-19. And those researchers indicated that, it could be 6 months that they could have enough of this to possibly go around. So we just have to keep watching the science. And, we all want this to happen immediately, but we have to think about safety.
Break it down for us. What's the difference that platform makes in terms of testing and in terms of safety and in terms of being able to release it to a general population knowing that you already know the side effects?
Well, they won't know the exact side effects until, of course, it goes into some form of clinical trial. But the difference this time around in terms of what this one particular laboratory is doing is they are taking a vaccine that's already been created against a different respiratory virus that happens to be also an RNA virus, so it's quite similar, modifying it in such a way that it will then react against the specific characteristics of coronavirus, and therefore they believe it will be effective. They've already tried this on some primates, on what are called macaque monkeys, and found that it is incredibly effective. When these macaque monkeys were exposed to this coronavirus at very high levels, which really is important, we can talk about that in a moment, they had no reaction in terms of developing any disease. So getting that platform to be used in humans is something that they've already done in another context with a previous iteration. So we feel that this is going to move along relatively quickly. I want to just mention the idea of the dosage that people are exposed to and how that might be relevant in terms of the severity of the disease. I just mentioned that these macaque monkeys got a really whopping dosage of coronavirus and seem to be protected. This relates to humans because we're now seeing an explanation as to why healthcare providers are getting this virus so aggressively. Not only are they contracting it, which you might expect, but they're having a tough go with it. They're having bad reactions to it. And it might be because they receive a much larger dosage on the front end compared to somebody who, let's say, gets exposed at a school or a restaurant or some other type of lower level exposure. So it looks like the dosage of our exposure does matter in terms of how severe our experiences might be.
All right, let's talk about testing and tracing. That seems to be one of the keys to opening the economy. Where do we stand with testing?
Well, we've taken a couple of steps backwards in terms of testing over the past couple of days. We've seen the FDA get involved and actually really issue some warnings that some of the testing that is out there, and it's the Wild West in terms of what's a lot of testing that's being created, may not be really valid and may create more harm than good. We really need to make sure that people submit. Right now, there are several companies that have 10 days to submit their results. We really need to make sure that these tests have very low levels of both false positive and false negatives. Let me explain. A false positive says that you've had the virus, you have the antibodies, but it's erroneous. And how can that be? Well, we know that false positives can be induced if you've had a previous coronavirus infection. We've most likely all been exposed to coronavirus, one form or another, over the past many decades. These have been around a very long time, first identified in humans back in the 1960s. So previous exposure might trigger some of these poor quality tests to say that you've now got antibodies to this specific COVID-19. And that might let a person think that he or she is free to go out and interact with others, maybe go back to work. So we really have to ensure that there's high standards of quality in terms of what these tests show. Now, these tests are going to play a pivotal role in giving us the ability to allow businesses to resume. We do feel that when individuals have a valid test showing good levels of one type of antibody, we call them IgG, that most likely they carry immunity and can no longer be infected. There was a report out of South Korea a couple of weeks ago indicating that even though people are testing negative, about 2.1% can have recurrence of the disease. Does that mean the virus is reactivated within them, or does it mean they caught it again, they contracted again? It looks like probably the explanation, this was a big study, over 7,000 people, it looks like the explanation is that the original lab testing that showed that they had now tested negative, didn't have the virus anymore, that might have been a bit erroneous. So we need to continue to watch that. But it doesn't mean that businesses cannot resume sooner than later with implementation of appropriate social distancing, hand washing, gloves, masks, and even plexiglass isolation where appropriate, allowing really, the best of both worlds, keeping people safe and allowing the economy then to get back underway.
Well, good advice, good analysis. Thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you. Good to see you.